Hi everybody, this is hopefully going to be a little short video today. I've just decided to film my colouring session, what I'm going to be working on today, and I'm going to be working on this lady here. She's from Christine Karen's Wildflower Folk colouring book. See that one there? She is actually from that book, and I've been working on her. And if any of you have watched my Crayola Swirl video, where I coloured a picture just using the Crayola Swirl, kind of multicoloured pencils, I did mention that I wanted to go ahead and try colouring a picture just picking one pencil, and colouring in the picture just using the one pencil. So that's what I've been doing on this picture. You can see all the different colours, the red and the blue coming in there, but that is just the one pencil. I decided to go with this one, which is the Fireworks. There we go, see if we can... There we go, it is actually the Fireworks colouring pencil. And I went for this one because, as we found out in the last video, going over the colour, if you try to do more than one layer going over the colour, you weren't quite sure which colour would be coming out of the pencil. So overlaying the colours tended to make them a little bit muddy, so I didn't quite really advise that. But for this one I picked this pencil because the colours on it are red and blue with a little bit of black and grey, and I figured if the red or the blue kind of overlaid each other, they would hopefully make purple. Red over blue or blue over red would probably make purple, which I could probably work with. And the other colour was black, which again wouldn't be too much of a problem if it did overlay where I was doing more than one layer, because that would probably be in areas of shadow like this, and if the black came through then that wouldn't be so much of a problem. So I went for this pencil, hoping I can make it work, and I think it's working pretty much okay so far. So we'll zoom us in and just chat a little bit about what I'm actually doing, and we'll see how we go from there. Alright, there I've zoomed us in a little bit, and we can see that in some areas I have tried to go for more kind of cross-hatching, trying to keep the area looking a bit more sketchy, because these Christine Karen pictures in this book are pretty sketchy. They look kind of like pencil sketches. So the lines are pretty sketchy, they're not crisp black lines, so I thought maybe if I brought in a little bit of cross-hatching we could get that to work. So I have actually brought that in some places, especially in the more darker areas, like here on her face, or in these shadowy areas here behind this little baby dragon, and I thought maybe that was working quite well. So for those areas I was laying down maybe one or two layers of the actual pencil, not really worrying too much if the colours changed as I was going through the layers, because as I said they would make purple. In some areas maybe we do have a little bit of purple coming through in these shadowy areas, especially where I have gone over with the layers of the pencil. So if you do want to just pick one pencil and overlay, I would maybe suggest picking one where the colours, if they did go over each other, they would mix to give a different colour instead of going into brown. I have actually been through the Crayola Swirl pencils, and I've picked out the ones that I think might work if you do want to try using this technique. I would steer away from the ones that have maybe opposite colours, two kinds of opposite colours on them, like purple and yellow or red and green, because if you mix those colours, overlay them over each other, they would tend to mix together to make a kind of browny muddy colour, so I would stay away from those. If you do want to play with them, then feel free, but these are the colours I've picked that I think I probably wouldn't try using because the colours are either opposite or close to being opposite. So the first one there we have is the Choco Mint Candy, which has green and it has orange. And as red and green are opposite on the colour wheel, orange is kind of close to red, so I'm thinking maybe that wouldn't overlay very well. The same with Lima Palooza, that has a more limey green with the orange and the yellow. And green and yellow not too bad, but I don't want to bring in that orange if I can help it, though. As I said, feel free to play with them if that's what you do decide to do. This one here has the orange and the pink and the purple, and again opposite colours with the orange or yellow and the purple, so I'm not quite sure those would mix very well together, might give you a bit too much of a brown. The next one is the New Year's Eve there. That one is pink, purple and teal, and I really wasn't quite sure how that teal would mix with the other colours. And as I haven't played around with it and saw what would happen, for now I've put that on my do not use kind of pile for this kind of technique. Lastly, we have the Sunset Luau, and again we have the orange and the green on that one, and we also have yellow and purple. So yeah, I would steer away from that one if you don't want your colours getting a little bit muddy there. Some of those I've put into the no for now pile before I do actually play with them, but those are the ones that I would decide not to use. And these ones I've pulled out being ones that might work for this kind of technique because the colours are pretty close together, and I don't think they would mix too terribly if you did go ahead and do a couple of layers. So the first one is Winter Gala. Of course, yeah, we have Fireworks. That is the one I am actually using. That is the red, blue and black. But first out of these we have Winter Gala. which is again red and blue with a little bit of the pink. So I think if those overlaid each other, you would end up with purple, which is not too bad. You can probably work with that. This one we have Garden Soiree, which is green and purple. I think when I used that it was mostly blue, so you would end up with blue and purple, which would work quite nicely, I think. This one is a few shades of pink. That one is really pale though. A word of warning if you do decide to try with that one. That one is really pale. The colours more kind of flesh tones, the light skin tones, so you could possibly overlay them over each other, I would think. Those were Meteor Shower. Next we have Campfire Jamboree, and those are shades of kind of red and orange and yellow, which I think would probably work all together quite nicely if you did decide to go for this kind of technique. This one I've picked out is the Raindrops, and I think those colours, we have a teal green and we have a kind of pinky colour, and I'm thinking those would give quite a nice purple if you did decide to overlay those colours. I think those would work quite nicely. And last but not least we have At the Circus, and that one is all the shades of brown, which I only really tested by colouring in a little cat in my last picture where I did try those out. But I'm thinking, yeah, those would kind of overlay each other quite nicely, although the lighter colour probably wouldn't show over the top of the darker one, so that's probably something you have to bear in mind with any of them really. If you're going with the lighter colour over the top of the darker one, that probably won't work too well. But those are the colours that I think might work for this. If anybody wants to play around with them and come up with some other ones that they think work quite nicely, then yeah, go for that. I'm all for experimenting. This picture actually is a little bit of an experiment because I did want to try just using one of these pencils and see how I could make that work. But what I did want to do today is go back and work on this lady a little bit more. So yeah, starting on her hair there, just using it as I planned, just as if I was shading with a drawing pencil. And not worrying too much about when I do my little habit of turning the pencil. I'm not worrying about that too much. And I'm not worrying about the colours too much if I do go back over. See, we're going over the blue now with that red, and it's giving a more purple tone where it does cross over the blue. So it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't make the colours muddy. So I'm thinking we can maybe go with that. If the black came out, I would move maybe to a more shadowy area and start filling in there until the pencil kind of turned itself around to a different colour. But for now, I'm just shading in the areas where this kind of grayscale is showing me to shade. Especially for the hair, I'm keeping to the nice long kind of hair strokes, as I would usually do if I was colouring hair. And leaving the white paper as highlights. If we wanted a little bit more shading, we could go in just with the pencil with no strokes, just as a flat colour, just to shade in and give a little bit of shape to this kind of piece of hair here, this lock of hair. So filling in these areas where there would be a little bit of shade. And yeah, I'm thinking that's working quite nicely. I'm trying to leave, I didn't there, as I say, I'm trying to leave, but I am trying to leave a little bit of a white kind of outline on the edges of these strands of hair, because for the background, I am filling in the background in quite a dark colour, overlaying the pencil to try and get quite a dark colour going on. If we look down the bottom here, you can see I've got my light coming from the right side of the page. If we look at her face, we can see the light coming from the right side of her page because this is a 3/4 face, and that's the way I like to have my light coming. If I'm working with a 3/4 face, I like to have my light coming from the side which has the most kind of area of face towards it. So I've got my light coming from the right. So the background on this side is pretty light because that's the direction my light is coming from. On this side, I am overlaying quite a lot, keeping to the cross hatching, making sure we've got a dark shadow behind our characters there. And again, the colour of the pencil has changed, but I'm not worrying too much about that because the whole effect of this picture is me trying to use this 3-colour pencil or 4-colour pencil to see what different effects we can get. So I'm trying all the different ways of shading as I could think of to try out these pencils, really give them a little bit of a workout and see what I can make go on with them. And as we've just got the one pencil, I mean technically we have 4 colours, but the one pencil, going into the shadowy areas to give more of an idea of shadow, you leaning more on the pressure you're putting onto the pencil, that the harder you're pressing, the darker the colour will be. So in the lighter areas, I was pressing really, really lightly to get just a little bit of that colour coming through, for example, here on her face. And it doesn't really matter which colour comes through the pencil because the colour will be really light anyways. For the darker areas, pressing harder, like that. Just giving a really dark shadow in the darker areas, and then coming in with the cross hatching into the shadow areas as well to try and carry on that sort of sketchy feel that we've got going on. And I've tried very hard on this one to stay away from the white gel pen. I'm trying to keep it looking kind of like a pencil sketch, sort of like what Christine Karen actually herself does for her pictures. Most of them tend to look like pencil sketches with this sort of sketchy grayscale going on, no crisp black lines, which does lend itself more to a sketchier kind of colouring, I think, when your lines are pretty sketchy to start with. And this is me just building up the shadows here, making sure we do have a really dark background there. As we're keeping the character fairly light there, we do want the actual background to be dark so that he will stand out, this little baby dragon. Keeping with my wings theme, I went for this one with a little baby dragon. And it's not a picture, to be fully honest, it's not a picture that I'm super fond of in this book. So I went for this one in case this little experiment didn't work, and I wouldn't be too sad if I did mess up and the picture didn't work. But it does seem to be working fairly well so far, I will say. And I just wanted to make this little kind of update to show that I am actually going forward with that and trying the pencils to colour a portrait and just using one pencil as if I was using a drawing pencil. And we really do want the shadow here to be fairly dark because we're going behind these little spikes he's got coming out of his back there, so we do want that to be fairly dark. Just pressing fairly darkly with the pencil there and fading out into the cross hatching to give us that nice dark shadow, make his little spine stand out. As I'm not trying my best not to cheat and bring in the white gel pen, so I'm just trying to keep this area really dark here behind the baby dragon. I'm trying to keep these cross hatching lines in the background here going the same way all the way down the page. Might not be exactly completely the same, probably impossible without a ruler, but yeah, trying to keep it all going the same way, the same kind of direction with these diagonal strokes here, to stop the background looking as if it's all separate areas, and to stop it looking maybe a bit too confusing perhaps. So yeah, building up the layers of cross hatching there in the background, and maybe going in and just colouring with the pencil as is, to really make that background dark on this side of our little lady. And we do have that purple coming through here again, where the red and the blue are crisscrossing over each other, which I think is working quite nicely, giving us an extra kind of shade of colour in there. And yeah, as I said, the colours with the more opposite colours on them, the pencils that have the opposite colours, like the red and the green, I'm thinking wouldn't work super well, because you do have those opposite colours which would mix overlay each other and give more of a brown, which we don't. Unless you do want brown, then yeah, feel free, but I think that maybe they would make the colours look a little bit dull if you are using those opposite colours on top of each other, and with it being quite hard to control which colour comes out of the pencil, and that does make it a little bit more difficult as well. There we go, that's how I was working away on the background. I have started on the frame here. We can see just in this little corner here, and I'm just shading that as if I was shading with a normal pencil. Maybe bringing in a little bit of texture. I'm not entirely sure what these kind of jewel type things are supposed to be, so I'm just shading them as if they were a kind of a round sort of oval jewel maybe. And keeping the shading towards the right side, as if the light is coming from inside the picture, so it would be shining on this part here. and plus to keep a light edge, towards where we do have our background coming in, because we are going to be shading the background. A little bit lighter on this side, but we still want a little bit more of a deeper colour there to make our lady stand out with the white outlines we've been trying to leave there. I think my kind of tips for colouring with a single pencil would be the same every time, because we're not counting on different shades of colour to give our differences in parts of the picture, like the difference between her skin and her hair, for example. We have to rely more on layering the colours in this case, and with our pressure to give the darker kind of areas, because if there is no colour, we are concentrating on the dark and the light really to give the form to the picture. So it comes down to the pressure, the more pressure and the more layers in the darker areas, keeping your strokes kind of lighter, maybe sticking to one layer in the lighter areas. And if you do need some extra kind of dark shadows, either press really hard with the pencil to give a kind of more graphic line of shadow, or you could come in with the cross hatching. If you think the sketchy kind of nature of the picture would let you go ahead and do that, you can go ahead with the cross hatching for your shading there. It's kind of hard to stay away from the white gel pen to make this flower look really kind of delicate, but I'm going for the sketchy effect, so yeah, I'm trying to stick to this one pencil, not bringing in any other kind of mediums. And yeah, not many kind of tips or techniques really to share with this one, because it's the same techniques as if I was using multiple pencils, but concentrating on doing light and shade rather than colours of pencil. So yeah, I'll zoom us back out again so we can look at the whole picture before I sign off. There we go, I've zoomed out to show the full picture there, so you can see all those different techniques, how we've got that all working together there, how the shadow is getting built up behind our little dragon here with the lighter areas left as highlights there. And we're trying to keep a good contrast between areas of light and areas of dark, trying to make sure there is areas of light, just to keep the picture kind of interesting for the eye really. So there's areas of light and areas of shadow, and also to show the form and to kind of make the picture look a little bit kind of 3D there. It's just using the same kind of techniques that I usually use, just using one pencil, just trying to forget that the pencil I'm using is the 4 different colours, and just doing what I would normally do to shade with just one pencil. If you guys are interested in seeing a video where I do just use one pencil and colour a picture, then please drop me a line in the comments. But for today, I just wanted to update you guys and show that I have actually gone ahead with what I suggested I was going to do, is colouring this picture with just the one Crayola Swirl pencil. I haven't really gone completely in depth, as I said, it was just a quick little video today, just an update really more than anything else, but hopefully it's been of interest to some people, given an idea of something you could maybe experiment with yourself. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye!